The main function of a spark plug is to ignite the air-fuel mixture that enters the cylinder. Spark plugs can be categorized into three main types. 1. Standard nickel alloy spark plugs. These typically need to be replaced every 20,000 to 30,000 kilometers. 2. Platinum spark plugs. These usually last longer, with a replacement interval of around 40,000 to 50,000 kilometers. 3. Iridium spark plugs. Known for their durability, these can last between 60,000 to 70,000 kilometers. There are many brands and types of spark plugs available, but some of the most commonly used brands on the market include NGK and Bosch. Equipment manufacturers now use NGK spark plugs as the standard. As a result, NGK spark plugs are often the go-to choice for everyday use. First, we need to locate the spark plugs. They're positioned just beneath the ignition coils. Typically, in most cars on the market today, there's one spark plug beneath each ignition coil. So, for a 4-cylinder engine, you'll have 4 spark plugs, which means we'll need to replace all 4. Now, let's use the appropriate tool to remove the ignition coils and check if the spark plugs need. Now, we'll use the tool to remove the spark plugs. First, we'll unscrew the ignition coil bolts and carefully remove the ignition coils. If you notice any marks or wear on the ignition coils, just gently pull them out. The spark plugs are located right underneath. We'll use a spark plug socket to tow. The spark plugs are located right underneath. We'll use a spark plug socket to tow. Depending on the car model, the tools we use may vary. It's important to choose the correct spark plug socket based on the specific vehicle. The size of the spark plug and its threads should match the socket precisely. Otherwise, you risk stripping the threads, which can make the spark plug difficult. This vehicle uses a 14mm spark plug. With a long extension and a quick release wrench, you can easily remove it. Now, we'll use the tool to remove the spark plugs. For a 14mm spark plug, insert the socket at an angle and gently turn it to loosen. Avoid applying too much force, slowly unscrew it. This method applies to each cylinder for specific vehicle models. You may need to use a universal joint to help with loosening the spark plug. I use a rubber tip to carefully extract the spark plug to avoid damaging it. After removing the spark plug, first check the ignition gap to see if it has widened. Inspect the ceramic insulator for any cracks and ensure that the sealing area is not leaking. If the seal is not tight or if there are any cracks in the ceramic, address these issues. If using a rubber stick to insert the spark plug into the cylinder, ensure it's properly seated. Then, use a spark plug socket with a long extension to tighten it into place. To install the spark plug, you'll need a rubber stick. Place the spark plug into the cylinder, then use a torque wrench set to the standard torque specification to tighten it. Make sure to also use the socket and extension bar to ensure everything is properly secured. First, use a rubber stick to place the spark plug into the cylinder, inserting it at an angle. Each cylinder should be treated the same way. When choosing spark plugs, select those of the same series, thread, and model as the original ones. For this vehicle, which uses NGK spark plugs, we will prioritize using NGK plugs. Now, we'll install the new spark plug. After inserting it, tighten it to the specified torque using a torque wrench. For this vehicle, the spark plug torque specification is 26 Newton meters. The torque must be set to the standard specification. If the torque is too high, it can cause improper sealing of the spark plug gasket, leading to leaks. Excessive torque can also damage the ceramic portion of the spark plug. Next, reattach the ignition coils and ignition wires in the correct sequence. Incorrect wiring can disrupt the engine's firing order and cause engine misfire or vibrations. Now, we'll sequentially reinstall the ignition coils. Gently push the ignition coils into place, then install and tighten the ignition coil mounting screws. Then, use the tool to gently tighten the screws into place. There's no need to apply excessive force, just ensure they are snug. Tighten the oil cap, then start the vehicle. Check if the engine warning light is illuminated. Default text check if the engine idles smoothly. The engine should idle smoothly without any vibrations. The warning light should be off if everything is in order. You can then replace the cover and restore everything to its original state.